Hi everyone, it's Christine from See You Next Tuesday, and today I'm at Estrelar Sound with DJ Escobutt, aka Esco. So I guess today I want to start off just asking you about, who you are, where does the name DJ Escobutt come from, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, Escobutt, I guess different parts, but mostly it's like my last name is Escobar. So I think that's where it mostly stemmed from. But the term was coined by someone I used to date a while ago. Because I think, it was just like a thing between us that, I had a big ass. And that had kind of been always present in mostly on my social media. And so at some point, I think he just said Escobutt, and I thought it was funny. And then I changed my handles to that. I was in a phase where I was changing my handles a lot at the time. So that one kind of stuck with people, and people thought it was like funny and memorable. There's only one Escobutt. And that's how it ended up being Escobutt. Everyone calls me Esco. The Esco short handle came mostly in the pandemic times when I was streaming a lot. And so it was just easier for all the other streamers and people on Discord to just refer to me as Esco. So that's when it became more like Esco. But that's the story of it. Yeah, so I am clearly, because I'm Colombian, so that's the sort of background.
So how long have you been DJing?
Almost 4 years, and maybe 4 and a little bit more. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic that I bought I guess a few months into the lockdown that I bought my first DJ controller. That's when I started practicing. I used to do a lot more on Twitch when I was live streaming. That was kind of how my intro to it. And then as soon as the world started opening up more, I started getting booked different places, just different things, nothing too consistent. But it's only now that it's kind of the most consistent thing I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you said you're from Colombia. When did you move to Toronto? How long have you been here?
Since 2010.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's been 14 years. Yes. That's when I moved. I was 17.
Okay.
At the time.
Yeah. So, you were starting out DJing, I guess, in Toronto. And then when you were doing your first sets, they were around the city in Toronto?
Yes. There was a big boom in sort of DIY events, raves, and all sorts of collectives were forming. And I started getting invited to play at those parties. Some of them were more DIY than others. But that's kind of how I started. It was definitely in the city. And then eventually, little by little, I'm trying to wherever I go now, see if something can happen. But it's definitely started here. It's most of my anything in life, really, because I was so young when I moved here.
Yeah.
So most of my artistic background or a lot of things I've done have been in Toronto. I feel that's also the reason why I know so many people. And everywhere I go, I feel I see someone I either have worked with or met before or just know through friends and stuff.
You were saying you have other artistic things in your background. Do you want to go into some of that? What else have you done?
Before I was a DJ, I was an artist. Well, I mean, I still consider myself an artist first and a DJ second, maybe. I like to think of it that way because it also helps me not compare myself to other DJs or focus too much on the DJ situation because it's a whole scene. And anyway, so I consider myself more of an artist. I would like for people to refer to me more as an artist, but I don't have no problem when people are DJ.
Yeah,
it's good. That also makes sense. But I went to school for plastic arts. It was it was drawing and painting. So I was initially a visual artist, and slowly through time, I guess that's part of the reason why I ended up live streaming, because it was also video. It was everything that had to do with sort of visuals. And because of live streaming, I had to dab my toes into audio because, I needed to work with microphones. I needed to work with digital mixers and OBS and all, how to route out. And especially if I wanted to stream DJ sets, I had to figure out how to get the audio to output, to the people all over the world watching. And so that's kind of my intro to audio. digitally speaking. And so now I consider myself an audiovisual artist. I do both, or the visuals are always present in my head, and then eventually ended up in what I'm doing now.
So what do you think, like, what was it that kind of sparked your, like, wanting to go more into audiovisual? Like, what was that change?
Very honestly and frankly, it was mostly like copyright issues. Well, when I was live streaming, because I guess before I did that, I used to do like computer graphic animations, and so I guess there was always this sort of longing to have music that I had copyright ownership over to avoid those conflicts. And then once I started doing live streaming, like your lives, like your VODs, which is called the video on demand, which is basically what gets stored after you live stream, I was unable to like recover that because of copyright issues. So like it was like this thing where I was like, I really wanted to learn more about audio so that I could have full sort of control, and mostly so I could monetize my content or like the visuals that I was putting out there. And that became very, very evident that it was like an issue specifically when I was live streaming, and like when I started DJing, because obviously I wasn't DJing. Like I was DJing other people's music. It wasn't my music. And in some of the music, I guess initially I was spinning a lot more mainstream, and like the more and more I got to know the scene and like got to know like key players, and I got deeper into the sort of DJing world, I feel like I try to do the opposite. Like, and if they are going to be mainstream, is like edits and like but I mostly try to like share and showcase music made by smaller producers or like independent emerging producers paired with like some more established producers, but it's still music that it's fairly niche and not as commercial. And I guess since I was a kid, I always thought I always had an affinity for music. Being from Latin America, also there's like lots of like dancing in the culture and like moving, and like it's just kind of embedded with being from especially I guess in my case from Colombia. So I always felt like I wanted to learn about music, and like I guess music in general. I don't want to say audio, but music. And then because I had all the time in the world during the pandemic, I was like, okay, well I'll start diving a little bit deeper into this and see if I can like learn more about it. And fortunately, there was like a couple of opportunities online that were free that I did sign up for, that were like most beginning like producer workshops, and specifically on how to use Ableton Live, and that's how I kind of started producing and like actually creating like original or experimenting with like my own samples and like learning about all that and like what it all meant, and like the process of how to make a song or like a piece of work that I could share. And then slowly, recently I released my debut EP, and so it's just been a process. But it hasn't been that long. When I look at it, like, it feels like it's been forever since the pandemic, but it's not been that long.
Yeah, literally.
So it really exponentially just kind of happened like fast.
How long would you say it took you from like starting out, taking those online courses, to like when you got to a place where you felt like, okay, yes, I can DJ? Like, how long was that learning curve, do you think?
Well, I mean, when I took the courses, I was already like DJing on Twitch. So I was already like, I already considered myself a DJ, but it only really sort of like became like a reality when I did it in front of people. Like no offense, because I know that I was streaming for people, but it's definitely different to DJ when there's like real people in the room, like
different
looking
energy.
at you and like being like, okay, how what are you gonna play that's gonna make me dance? So that's when it kind of became like I settled into like, wow, this is what I do now. And the production was mostly like something that I was like passively doing as I kept learning about DJing, because even it was, I guess I was using my controller at home is different than using some of these like bigger apparatuses. And actually Estrelar was like I think shortly after the pandemic, like sort of not ended, but after the world started opening up, they opened up their first space, and it was helpful to do the transition to like the industry standard sort of like gear, and that's when it officialized a bit more. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I am a DJ.
So you're also talking about how like, your upbringing in Colombia kind of informed some of the type of music that you like to make. So what are some of like the genres or styles or artists of music that really inspire your work?
Artists that inspired me. It's also kind of interesting because I feel like I'm having like a renaissance of like Latin music in my life, but it's like electronic. Yeah, it's kind of because it's like the same rhythms, but like they feel and sound newer. Specifically with cumbia, like for me, like cumbia is something that I've heard since I was a little girl, like sleeping in the couch, waiting for like, you know, looking at my parents get drunk and like dancing and whatever. Yeah. But it's like a different type of flavor, and now there's I guess, and through my partner, I like learned about like electronic cumbia and dark cumbia that's being produced by some multiple producers around the world. Specifically a lot of like Mexican influence, because it's like sonidero, more like style cumbia, but it's like electronic cumbia. So I feel like it's I'm kind of constantly now today revisiting those like the music and like the songs and like the specific genres that I used to listen to when I was like little. And trying to, in my head, well, first of all, like now that I know a little bit more about music, like dissect them and seeing how they can be how I can like take them and like maybe make them into something new, like that sounds a bit more electronic. And the electronic and I guess digital comes to like what inspires me, like artists like Arca, Bjork, and because I did move, and even before moving here, I feel like I also had an affinity to, and I think maybe it's my dad's fault, because you know he listened to a lot like Michael Jackson, like rock, AC/DC, like all, like it was more like American influence, like I guess music, and so I started looking more north for those sort of electronic, not traditional, I guess, genres of music. And then once I moved here, I could like sort of like I kind of settled on that, and because I went to art school, I also met a lot of people that introduced me to all sorts of like cool like art, like Nicholas Jar was one of them too back in the day, and that's all electronic music, like electronic music producers. But obviously I can't say I haven't been inspired, and I don't find inspiration whenever I listen to like an old salsa song or like a merengue song. I don't know, like a Wilfrido Vargas song. I was like, I feel all of these things inside of me, but now my head is trying to think about how to dissect them and what I can take from each one of these pieces to incorporate into what I'm trying to do now, I guess, or like into what I can call my own. It's knowing sort of where to honor each specific thing that inspires me to create or to make what I do now. That's kind of like a broad question, and I answered it in an interesting way.
No, it's good.
Yeah. I definitely like get influenced by like girlies online, like Slaying the Game, and like pop artists I like a lot. I'm fascinated by K-pop, the K-pop world, and how like the agencies like just like talent management, all that. It's like in a nutshell, like and I guess it's mostly tied to identity politics, and that was a lot of like my work as an artist when I was in university, was like, what does it mean to be Colombian, like, and a Colombian immigrant, and like to look the way I look, and to be like in the body that I am, and to be highly fetishized, and all of these like things that also play into like mass media and mass culture.
Okay, so I listened to your EP, ID Ass, loved it. So when I was listening to it, I'm like, I could either be like shaking my ass in the club to this, or I could put this on when I'm like working at home. You know what I mean? Like it has like a chill vibe, but it's also like, I was definitely like moving my hip. What do you want people to feel when they listen to your music?
Yeah, it's interesting that people usually gravitate, or like the few reviews and like write-ups and things that I've seen online, and even when like what you're telling me, because when I was producing the music, I wasn't necessarily thinking club. Like I definitely wasn't picturing like even myself, like I was like, I'm probably not gonna play this at the club. But it's interesting that people do feel like it belongs there, and that it's still considered like Latin club. I do feel like people have put that label on it, like even the label that released it, that's how they put it on SoundCloud, like hashtag Latin club, and I like, can we change it to like electronic? And I love that there is like this feeling that makes you want to move. That definitely was a part of it. Like I did have my moments. There's moments that are like more like quiet, and there's moments that are a little bit more like and I feel like that was mostly the intention, was to make the whole EP like it was like just one piece, so it's not 5 songs, but it was more like one longer composition divided into songs. That was a goal from the very beginning. So it's nice to know that it's kind of like this journey that goes up and down, and that people sometimes do feel like they want to dance to it, and like they place it in like a more like shake ass club setting. So I love that, but that was less intentional. The way that I described it, I want them to feel like they can step into their main character energy. So it's more of like it's an instrumental EP, so there's no like few vocals there, but they're not, you know, like melodic vocals. It's mostly just like from samples that I gathered also in Colombia. So I wanted it to 15 minutes that will like sort of make you feel elevated. I truly pictured it as something that you listen to while you get ready to go out.
Okay, yeah.
Go out there and face the world feeling like empowered. That was kind of like where it ended up going, because truthfully I had a complete different plan for like what it was supposed to be. And obviously like I just kind of had to trust the process and like make decisions specifically at the end when it came to like the visual identity of it, and how I was gonna like represent what the sounds or like how the songs came out, because I worked on it with my partner and with my other friend who just kind of advised me more like overall feel and vibe. But like when it comes to technicals, most of it like I was working with my partner, because they're like music major, like so they're like more experienced, and I was just mostly like grabbing the parts and pieces and like moving them around and arranging them, and like making the final decisions and like the executive decisions of like how things were gonna fit at the end. But that's kind of what at the end it ended up feeling like. It was like, okay, that's kind of where we're going for in regards to that piece. Because there's other songs that are definitely more like club and dancey, and there's some other coming out, like other things coming out soon that are also gonna be.
I'm excited.
Like it's different. The whole point of the EP was also to just kind of like break the conventions of different genres, and I was seeing that as like my own resistance to like systems of oppression. So it's like I definitely is inspired by like my Latin background and identity, but the idea with it was to just like have as many different genres and rhythms and things push and pull and have it be like its own unique thing, and not necessarily a genre or a specific genre. That's how I can say it.
So in your opinion, how is Toronto's creative scene changing, and what are you most excited about for the future of music here?
I feel like I go back and forth between thinking that Toronto is being progressive, and sometimes I don't feel like it's being that progressive. It really depends on the day. It is, I guess, something I really enjoy is seeing so many artists, especially I guess post-pandemic. Like I was mentioning before, like there was like this huge sort of like wave of like DIY, like DJs, like a DJ boom. There was DJ boom. I feel like now we're going through the producer boom. Like a lot of those DJs now want to become musicians, like want to dive deeper into music make. And then when I look more at like the commercial side of things, that's when I usually feel like maybe we're not making that much progress, because everything kind of sounds the same, and feels the same, and it feels like even just visually speaking, I guess mostly visually speaking, it feels like we're still aiming for the same sort of like stereotypical things. But hopefully with time, these new emerging artists who are doing things different can get the funding to like continue to like do that and like push it out there. So I guess that's it in terms of like because it's a broad question. I feel like that's the best way to summarize it when I look at, and I guess the money making in the music industry is kind of where I'm looking from. Like that's why I said the commercial part, sometimes it looks like the investment keeps wanting to go to the same old ideas. And I wish it was more like the emerging, more radical, different, more, like I guess trans and like pushing for different things. I guess that's the best way I can put it.
So what role do you think the local community, venues in Toronto play in supporting these like up and coming DJs or artists? And do you want to shout out anyone in the scene or any collectives in the scene that kind of helped you out along your journey as a DJ?
Absolutely. I feel like venues play a huge role and collectives play a huge role in helping these emerging and just general artists exponentially grow and like open up their opportunities, open up their doors to more opportunities, exposure, whatever you want to call it. It's hard in Toronto, I will say. It's hard in Toronto to find places who are like willing to just like do that and not charge you. And first, from my own experience as an event promoter. So that leads me to the next people, I guess, shout outs that I want to do. First and foremost, for sure, Drom Taverna. That is where I DJ the most often, and that place was the first place where I like sort of officially started DJing more. They have created space for the queer community on Thursday nights. I actually helped them program Thursday nights, so queer nights at Drom. So I am sort of in touch with queer talent all over the place, trying to like figure out times for them to like, and ideas on how to like put shows together. And it's where a lot of like these new parties like that are like doing super well now were born, like initiatives like Queued Up and Metamorphosis party as well. It's like an all trans party. Everything was born there out of this initiative. So Drom Taverna, huge shout out. They really take care of their artists. They have taken care of me since the very beginning. They're super. I love everyone there. It's my boss. Most of the people are queer. It's great. I think there's other spaces. I know Basement 254. Is that the numbers? I also had a great experience there. Most recently, Standard Time. I think they're doing some really cool things there, and they were very nice. And they're really on top of it. And then I also want to shout out myself.
Yes, of course.
For like giving, like, cause I truly feel like, you know, sometimes you gotta give yourself your platform, because not all the time, like everybody's trying to get it, right? So you kind of have to like figure out how to give yourself the spotlight every now and then. So with that would come like my, I guess, the collective, or like my promoter, I guess, alias as Ludeline. We do put events together quite often. Our next event is going to be at Ukai Projects on October 24th. I don't know if this is going to be out by then, but we did curate one of the nighttime events. It's like a whole festival. It's like a 3 or 4 day long festival. And so we're doing one of the night. But yeah, Ludeline is the one where I play. I'm like a resident DJ there. I play every single that we promote, or like we do. Oh, another really cool space, a Lost Tonic. I want to mention my friend Sam is running. It's like a female run independent music studio space, Liberty Village, and I've done events there. I've also, a lot of ideas was recorded there. A lot of the samples that we did, additional sampling, photos for the cover art, and like my tour photo, everything was done there. So it's kind of like a multimedia studio. It's small, but my friend Sam is super sick, starting to pick up more and more. So those are the spaces that I would say I want to shout out.
Love it. Do you have any advice for, people that are just starting out, making art, or people that want to transition, from maybe they have a corporate job into a job where they're doing art for a living? Like, do you have any advice for those types of people?
It's hard. I would say keep your job.
Yeah.
Keep your job, or like maybe lower your hours and work on the art on the side for now, so that you can pay rent and live a comfortable life before you just quit it all to just go do art, because it's not the easiest to make a living as an artist. I have just been very blessed since I guess even getting to Canada. I will say daddy Canada, because the government has helped me a lot in being able to have the lifestyle, or like be a full-time artist. If it wasn't because of like government, I guess, help, I honestly don't think I could just do art full-time. I feel like I would probably have to have a job and then do this on the side. But obviously, follow your intuition. It's dedication. Obviously, I would say just like keep an eye out on, speaking of daddy Canada, like just grants. Toronto, Ontario, and Canada Arts Council, great resources. Just, I guess, networking is super important. I guess tapping into different groups, depending on what your interests are, that of people that could help you further explore and like I guess, reach higher and higher levels in your artistic career. Definitely do not lose your calm.
Yeah.
Do not make enemies.
Yeah.
It's it's something that I've had to deal with. I feel just personally just have issues in that regard. Making sure that you have allies everywhere,
Yep.
because the space is not that. It is very limited spaces,
Yeah.
very limited amount of funding, very limited. So you just, and collaborate. That's also a huge, collaborate. Don't go out there trying to do everything yourself. Find friends, find partners, find people that are going to help you realize that, and people that are also interested in the same thing. Usually it's not that hard to coordinate everyone so that you can have a bigger impact, a bigger affect on whatever it is that you're trying to do.
I mean, thank you so much for talking with us today. Is there anything you want to plug?
Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram at Escobutt, but Butt. I usually post there where we know everything, where I'm going to be playing, closet sales, all sorts of things. That's probably the best place to keep up with all the stuff that I'm doing. Follow Ludeline as well, which is just like now my other secondary account, and like the events that we're putting together. That should be getting really spicy next year, hopefully. And y'all as well. I'm just getting started. I'm not too familiar, but I'm sure we'll do things. We'll keep doing things. My partner Juanito,
plug him,
who helps me with most everything. It helps me even when I have my nails on. Also, incredibly talented musician, and one of the reasons why I have gone, I guess, as far, and like all the knowledge I have, a lot of it comes from them. So I definitely have to plug them. And also, we are gonna be doing I just remember because we were just talking about it because we're trying to get this grant, but we are doing a residency at Transac. It starts next month. It's every Friday, the first Friday of the month, to like March of next year. So that is going to be ongoing. And it's another one of our like sort of ideas, workshops that we keep doing, or like we're workshopping it in different spaces. It's called Show, like SHOU, Show. And it's more like live music, I think, focused more than DJs. Cool. So it's more like Juanito's initiatives that I help them with, but we are going to be doing it every Friday, a 2-hour slot. I think it's from 9 to 11 or something like that. And so I'm going to have my friend Leila, DJ Lovebug, who's going to be the resident DJ for that, and there'll be like one performance each show at the Transac.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for the interview. I feel so flattered. Lots of things happening. Follow me on Instagram.
Gotta keep up.
The best place, because there's like, I don't even expect anyone to remember, because there's too many things. But I'll remind you on the stories. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.